Hi guys, Ricky Pope here, and this week on the Christian Nerd Unite podcast, I talk with Brent Dusing, the CEO and founder of TruPlay, a faith-based entertainment platform focused on games and digital comics, plus scripture and nerdy news, and we'll get to all of that right after this.
Hey guys, this is Ashley Cox from Fangirling Over Jesus. At FOJ, we believe in hope and light in the darkness and that you are not alone. We seek to unite and celebrate the intersection of the gospel and our favorite fandoms, and we get to do this through our social media, our podcast devotional, and our cosplay and fashion. And you can find links to all of that through our website, www.fangirlingoverjesus.com, through our social media at Fangirlingoverjesus, wherever you get your podcasts, and on Etsy. See you online.
And lead me on to your kingdom come, surrendering, let your work be done. My life I give for the glory of your Son.
Thanks so much for joining me each week on the Christian Nerd Unite podcast. We are part of the Christian Nerd HQ podcast network. The network releases content every single day of the week. Christian Nerd Unite on Mondays, Tatooine Sons on Tuesdays, Fangirling Over Jesus on Wednesdays, The Reverend and the Reprobate on Thursdays, and the Speaking Nerdy podcast every Friday. Check out ChristianNerdHQ.com right now to follow all the podcasts, and check out Christian Nerd HQ on YouTube for our exclusive content that we're making together. Let's look at some scripture. Brent and Playthrough say they want to transform generations of children through hope and God's truth. And that made me think of this passage. Let's read Deuteronomy 6, 4-9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your forehead. Write them on the door frames of your house and on your gates. I love this passage. God says to know the commandments, and I would expand that to say, know the scripture and the gospel. To teach it to your children and to discuss it when you're out and about, when you're at home, and even when you go to bed. To make it so much a part of who you are that others see it on you. Can others see the gospel through the way you live? Are you having spiritual conversations with your children? I pray that today we will live a life in such a way that others can see Christ in us, and that we take the opportunity to use things like our games and our nerdy entertainment to start spiritual conversations with our family and friends. Now let's look at some nerdy news. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny topped the box office this weekend with a somewhat disappointing $60 million domestically and a worldwide box office so far of $152 million, and that includes any paid previews that they released. With some reporting a $300 million budget, it looks like this will not be a win for Disney, with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse coming in second at $11 million, pushing its worldwide box office to over $600 million. Sony definitely has a win. After an extensive search by James Gunn and 6 actors and actresses doing screen tests, David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan have been selected to star in Superman Legacy as Superman and Lois Lane, respectively. The film will be a major launch for the DC's new universe for the studio heads Gunn and Peter Safran. The film is expected to start shooting in early 2024 with a release date of July 11th, 2025, depending on scheduling. The SAG-AFTRA Union of Actors has chosen to postpone a strike and institute a 12-day contract extension, while the union and major studios continue negotiations. If there is not a resolution or another extension, actors could join the writers on strike on July 13th. According to several media outlets, Deadpool 3 and Captain America Brave New World have both finished shooting, and that's going to be just in time if they do go on strike. This week, I interviewed Brent Dusing, the CEO and founder of TruPlay, a faith-based entertainment platform focused on games and digital comics. Let's get right into our interview. Brent Dusing, it is great to have you on the Christian Nerd Unite podcast today.
Thanks, Ricky. Good to be with you.
So you are the CEO and founder of TruPlay. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what TruPlay is.
Yeah, I've been a serial tech entrepreneur for just about as long as I've been a believer, actually, for right around 18, 19 years. I was in Silicon Valley for a while, started a couple companies there. We started a company called Cellfire. If you're listening, you might not have heard of it, but you might have used it if you ever shopped at a Kroger or Safeway or one of their affiliates, and you go in and it says use your cell phone to save money or use digital coupons. I invented that. We sold that business. We then did some games on Facebook. You might remember the days of video games on Facebook, games like Farmville.
Yes.
You don't have to admit whether you played that or not, but a lot of people did. A lot more people played it than admitted to it, funnily
Absolutely.
enough. But we built games like that. We didn't build Farmville, but that told explicitly biblical stories. So
Okay.
Journey of Moses, Journey of Jesus, Stained Glass. We had 7 million people play our games. It was great. I moved to Austin, Texas, 8 years ago now, and started TruPlay really because of my concern for what's happening with kids today. Most of the people here at TruPlay come from just phenomenal backgrounds. I'm happy to share that, but out of gaming, art, story writing, tech, and most of us are parents here, and most of us were concerned with the toxic content we're seeing from pushed on kids, and we really are in this crisis right now where anxiety, suicide, and depression rates are all-time highs for children. In fact, 22% of kids seriously considered suicide like within the last 90 days. And if you listen to dialogue, it's always, but if we just spent more money, if we just had this government service, if we just had that thing. We're in the most prosperous society in the history of the world. Mm-hmm. If the answer was more money, the depression rates would be an all-time low. We're going through inflation, which means we have too much money. It's not that. It's that we've taken God out of the equation. There's people know there's all kinds of toxic messages, sexual content getting exposed to children at very young ages, hyper violent stuff. One of the worst, most concerning things is that while 62% of Americans over 40 believe in God, which is you and me, Gen X, right, and above. Yeah. For those people under 18, it's 32%. 32%. Mm. And you say, well, wow, why is that? Well, it's a very simple statistic. The average child is on a screen 52 and a half hours a week. The average child's at a church 30 minutes a week. Because only half of kids go to church. And by the way, if you don't go to church, where else in the world are you hearing God's truth? Where are you hearing there's a God that loves you? Where are you hearing you're fearfully and wonderfully made? Where are you hearing that, gosh, God loved you so much He died for you? That's just such a foreign concept now to people. They've never even heard it. Wow, God actually did give us a book to read that reveals all these things about Him and also how to live. And it's called the Bible. And also, by the way, some things probably not to do. It's so extracted from our culture everywhere. Social media, movies, video games. And when you look at the amount of time kids spend on video games, I'm a parent. I'm sure most of you listening are parents. And there's nothing wrong with video games. And there's nothing any more wrong with a video game than a movie. I mean, you could watch The Passion of the Christ. You could watch, pornography. You could read, you could read the Bible. You could go read what's a horrible book? 50 Shades of Grey, right? It's not about the medium. It's about the message. The
Right.
problem is there have been very few video games that have any sort of messaging about God's truth, that have any sort of hope or love or joy or and so what TruPlay is. Sorry to kind of get to the point. TruPlay is it's a subscription service. It's live on iOS.
Okay.
You can have an iOS device. You can go to our website TruPlayGames.com or download it from the App Store. It'll be live on Android in July. It's all these games, mobile games, videos, cartoons, digital comics. So we have our content. Kind of think about it like this. We have some brand new IP that we've built. We call the Rimverse. If you're watching this, there's a character called Maple on my T-shirt. She's a little girl who's a bunny rabbit that wears a tiger costume, and happy to talk all about her. But the Rimverse is where there's various characters. Lucas is a skunk with a crocodile robot suit. And they have their own personalities, their own strengths, their own weaknesses, and they live in a world where the Bible is real and God is real, but there's also real bad guys. And these adventures take place through games, through comics, through cartoons, and then there's content we make that's explicitly biblical stories. So we have a game called Stained Glass that's out.
Okay.
We have a game called King David's Battles we're working on. And then the cool thing is we're actually partnering with some other companies. For those of you who know the Action Bible, you might have an Action Bible at your house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for one of my very favorite products. It's if you don't know it, it's about 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick. A very, very well done comic book art style. They've sold millions of copies around the world. It's a very, very good quality. And I mean, they don't miss anything. I mean, they got the Jeremiah story when he's in the yoke. I mean, they've got all the all the little even the small stories in the Bible. And we've digitized some of their comics and putting them in the platform as well. And so TruPlay, it's a subscription service, just like you would use a Netflix or an ABC Mouse or an Amazon Prime. And there you get access to all this content. There's no ads, there's no chat rooms, there's no in-app purchases. It's meant to be an environment that you can trust for your family, but it's not just about being safe. It's about bringing God's truth and His hope and His love, and hopefully in a way that's really engaging to your, this quality, the storytelling, the quality, the artwork, the quality, the game design, the quality of the technology is something that we're all really proud of, and it's been just a tremendous group of industry veterans that have come together to build this.
Awesome. Well, tell me a little bit about now. You told me a little bit about the current situation. What specifically drove you to say, this is what we want to create? We came up with this idea, not just we wanted to make games that had a scriptural basis of some sort, but what was the impetus for this particular style, or what pushed you to say, this is the right time, this is the right one?
Yeah. Well, we really came up, I've had this idea and this dream for years. We built some very successful Christian video games, and so we know there's a market. And what's funny is we do a ton of testing, and it's not, and of course with kids, because that's how you build great products, is you test and test and you fix what you need to fix. But what we found was we also had parents wanting to test as well. And they would want to play the games, and so we try to write. And if you're welcome to, like I said, check out TruPlay. But the way the stories are written are meant to be enjoyed by families. We find a lot of parents enjoying, and so hopefully it's something you can do with your kids that you enjoy as well. Look, more people don't realize more money was spent on mobile video games, just games on iPads and phones, than at movie theaters last year. It's a huge market. The amount of time. I mean, think about this.
Yeah.
How much time does your child spend on a mobile device versus how often are you really taking your kid to the movie theater anymore? Right? You might have taken them to see Mario Brothers. Yeah. You might have taken them to see one or two things, but it's not a commonplace thing anymore like it was. What's really common is, how many times you go out to eat at a restaurant and the kids are glued to the devices. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying it's true.
Exactly.
So we knew that. We had a lot of success building games. It's a great story. It's a great way to tell stories. And again, TruPlay really is a multimedia experience. So it is games, but it's also comics. It's also video content. So it's the ability for kids to kind of get involved and immerse themselves. in an experience that I think hopefully is really edifying and helps them grow not only their understanding of the Bible, but really their relationship with God. And look, everybody's moving that way. I mean, you look at all the big media companies, for better or worse, right? Disney, HBO, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, they've all got these subscription services. But where is something for our children? Where is something for our most vulnerable, our most impressionable? And that's why we built TruPlay.
Cool. Now, just looking at your website, you definitely have different kinds of games. What kind of games would people expect to find?
Great question. So we do have different gameplay styles. Look, different gameplay styles appeal to different people. Just like some people prefer documentaries, some people prefer murder mysteries, some people prefer action, some people prefer romantic comedies. We've built different gameplay styles because different people enjoy different things, and that's true for kids. We have a puzzle game. It's a match 3 called Stained Glass. You collect stained glass pieces, solving puzzles. Glass pieces form a stained glass window. The window comes to life, and a character from the Bible tells you what their story was like, but from a more personal perspective. So Eve will tell you, "Gosh, this voice was whispering to me that I could know more than God, and so I got tempted, and so I started to eat the fruit, and then I had to look God in the eye and tell him, what I'd done." And so there's a game called Maple, which is the character on my shirt. Maple's game it's a platformer kind of puzzle game. So it's kind of an adventure game. You're going into this forest. She's on a rescue mission. Something's wrong with the forest, and she's not sure what or why. There's puzzles. There's traps. There's people who are rescued. There's bad guys. There's you have to kind of figure out your way to kind of navigate through the forest. There's a game called Little Light, which is a version of an endless runner. We have a few different endless runner games in different styles. Little Light is one where the little nursery rhyme, "This little light of mine."
Yes.
When we were kids. That we kind of built the game based on that. There's scripture woven in. There's another game where you're kind of running through the forest, escaping these attacking vines. And then there's another game that's a kind of a tower defense, battle game. So there's different gameplay styles that appeal to different people, and they've been testing pretty well.
Awesome. Well, now you mentioned the games. You mentioned the digital comics. Are you, and with a lot of platforms that are subscription based, video is the major component. Are you envisioning going into video production or having access to video that you have acquired, or is it going to stay with the digital comics and the games primarily?
Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to look and see what our audience really wants and what they spend their time on, and what you kind of let the customer tell you, this is what we want to have, this is what we want to see, and so we'll just continue to build more content out as we see what our consumers want to have. Okay.
Well, I grew up in the 80s.
Me too.
So I have grown up with all sorts of video games. I mean, the first video game I ever played was text-based. So there's been lots of different styles. There have been lots of attempts to do Christian versions of existing games or existing game styles. What makes this different than some of the other attempts to do "quote unquote" Christian gaming?
Yeah, I think what's different here is you'll see with the art style and the gameplay and the storytelling, the writing. It's a very high quality bar. It's as good as anything that you'll play on the App Store in these style of games. It's written. Look, God's truth can be revealed in different formats. I mean, there's explicitly biblical games, Stained Glass, a King David game. King David game it's a battle game. It's a fighting game we're making, combat game that isn't out yet, but it's coming out for the platform. Rim Heroes Battle is another kind of combat game. But so the biblical games are obviously you're telling a biblical story through the gameplay. Other games like the Rimverse, The characters like Maple and Lucas. Look, obviously, there's no bunny rabbits and tiger costumes in the Bible, but Maple's someone who she's a very strong believer, but she's very headstrong as well, and she doesn't really have much interest in other people's opinions. And she goes on a rescue mission and winds up in a forest, rescuing somebody, but also kind of discovering a deeper nefarious plot. And there's, they pray to God, and the Bible is quoted, and there's real evil, and there's faith that kind of guides them, and they pray, and sometimes God shows up for them, right, in ways that they expect, sometimes ways they don't expect. And so that's kind of the way that the story is told, and kind of the message is woven in. And each of the characters deal with things that kids are dealing with today. I mean, one of our characters, Lucas, his brother died a year ago, and he has a hard time with that. And by the way, Lucas doesn't believe in God. He just doesn't know God. He doesn't know anything about him, doesn't understand it. And so he's on that journey. But he's brilliant. He's a little bit autistic. A lot of kids are these days. And he's brilliant. He's an inventor. So he built a crocodile robot suit that flies and shoots laser beams. He's a skunk. And then there's a character called Ava. And Ava, her parents are divorced, and she's getting bullied at school. And she's a lynx, which is kind of a fierce animal, but she wears a costume of a fawn. She's our only character that's more fierce than the costume she wears, because what she's trying to do is go along and get along and kind of placate, but she's really getting torn up inside. So she has to go on this journey where she has to learn to stand up against the bullying and against the lies, and learn that you're not who other people tell you who you are. You're who God says you are.
Nice. And
then there's the last one I'll talk about is Benjamin. Benjamin's a warrior, King David type of guy, punch the bad guy in the mouth kind of guy. So there's, one of our characters, Oliver, he's a nerd, and he's adopted, and he has struggles and questions about that. So each of our kids, just like, I heard a pastor say once, God doesn't ever use perfect people because he doesn't have any available. Right? Each of our kids, they have their strengths, they have their weaknesses, and they go on their adventures and journeys, and there's bad guys and laser beams and spaceships and monsters and all kinds of things as well.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned these characters, and earlier you mentioned part of your idea was families, because you found the adults wanted to play as well, and you've kind of built that into the idea. Do you have kind of a target age range for the games as far as the younger side goes? What kind of are there different games at different age levels?
There are. So generally we think about TruPlay as serving children in the 5 to 12-year-old range, although we have had teenagers play and enjoy it. We've even had adults play and enjoy it. So look, some of our games are built for the younger demographic. Some are built for a little older side of the range. Okay. And so that's the way I kind of describe it.
Okay. And you describe this as kind of a story. You've got this overarching story that you're telling. Have you kind of laid out a pathway forward of this is the story we want to tell over the next couple of years, or is it something you're just building on as you go?
We have. I won't publicly say a name.
Yeah, you don't have to divulge.
There is a certain intellectual property that those of us who grew up in the 80s were incredibly in love with, and then incredibly disappointed by movies that were made in the last, say, 8 years, after it was acquired by another large company. And so, and because if you think about it, they never took the time to plot out their story. I mean, you ended episode 6 with all kinds of wonderful things that could have happened, right? And in fact, there were some really good books that were written that by the company, but then the movies took a completely different tack and didn't make sense. It contradicted themselves, and so we spend a lot of time plotting out and mapping out the Rimverse. What's happening. So there's story arcs. Everything that happens now is in arc 1, and then there'll be other arcs that happen over time as the kids continue to progress and age. But there's a larger plot narrative that's told through the comics and the games, and they all kind of tie in together. And sometimes the characters will show up in each other's games. So one's the main character in this game, and the other's the main character in the other game. Sometimes they combine in each other's, and then in the Rim Heroes battle game, it's when they all team up to fight the big bad guy. She's an evil queen named Azilla, who has twisted and corrupted the meaning of truth and words, and done a lot of other pretty serious, nefarious things. And so they have to use all their powers to stop her.
Awesome. Now you've just launched very recently.
Yes.
What does success look like over the next year for TruPlay?
Yeah, we really want to get as many people as possible, on board and subscribing and supporting TruPlay. We are parents just like you guys, and we built this. And again, these are people from industry who had all kinds of wonderful career options and choices, and they chose to kind of come here and do this because we look out and we didn't see anyone else really advocating for the betterment of children's souls. And as parents, we were concerned, gosh, who's looking out for our children's well-being, for their future, for their souls, right? For their mental health. I don't see a lot of it anymore. And so what we need people to do, what success looks like is we need people to go on to TruPlayGames.com, buy an annual subscription. There's also merchandise with T-shirts and stickers and new stuff we're rolling out all the time. But the thing is this: if you are concerned about the toxic content your kids see, but the reality is they're still going to be on a screen. I mean, I probably know 1% of parents, and I'm talking about Christian parents, who don't ever let their kids go on a screen, and good for them. Yeah. But for the other 99 of us, which I'm in the 99, the reality is that's where they're going to be, because you walk into school and there's screens, or go to the bus, right? So you've got to, as a parent, become part of this, part of our movement, part of TruPlay, because we're gonna keep moving forward. We're going to keep building more content, more games, more cartoons, more comics, and onboard other great content products to continue to just have a phenomenal experience that hopefully blesses families all around the country and eventually all around the world.
So I love the idea. I love what you guys are doing. I think this is brilliant. Other than the idea that this is a Christian organization, we're doing content that has a Christian focus, a faith focus. What do you think makes this particular project unique versus some of the other things that might be out there?
It's a few things. The quality is a very high bar. If you look at the artwork, the game design, the story writing, it's all things that we're very, very proud of. There's a lot of work that's gone into crafting the story. It all starts with the story and planning and right, and then everything else starts to hang onto that. The ability. The other thing that's unique, to have one app where you can use that one app and you have multiple games. Each of these games you can play for hours. These are not little quick, tiny little things. These are games that tell stories, that have multiple levels. That are very kind of in-depth games like you play in the App Store. That's also different. Additionally, because it's a subscription, there's no in-app purchases. Look, I know a lot of parents get annoyed by your kids saying, "Hey, can I have $3 for gyms? Can I have $4.99? Hey, it's a sale, please let me." And then it's a struggle as a parent, and you're not really sure. Another concern that a lot of parents have these days is chat rooms. There's a lot of. I saw it happen. I was playing. I was playing a very popular online game that was very popular 2 years ago, and I saw some pedophile activity. I saw people trying to basically encroach on kids, and I told them, because I was just one of the players, and I told them to shut up and go away, basically. But is all I could do, unfortunately. But the whole chat room thing, the whole online predatory thing, is very real, and we I don't know how we allowed this to happen, but somehow so many parents not parents, but adults rather, have allowed this predatory infestation upon our children. They're getting in schools, they're getting it on screens. You go to these video games just to be entertained, and you have these poor innocent children really being preyed upon, and we're concerned about that. And so that's what's different here, right? It's Christian, but it's done with high quality. It's done with, I think, characters that you'll enjoy. These are characters that they're fun and they're funny. They have some strengths. They certainly have their own weaknesses. If you look at Maple, Maple's very headstrong and very courageous, but she doesn't always pronounce her words correctly, like a lot of kids. And by the way, when she's corrected, that's completely irrelevant. She's already moved on. Like I said, Lucas is not a Christian, and by the way, kind of autistic and doesn't always pick up on cues, but yet, he has this quest to go find where is his brother, what really happened, and all those kind of things. And so I think you'll find the storytelling to be something that's really captivating no matter what age you are.
With this idea, this faith idea wrapped into what you already have been doing for years and years and years, being, in programming, being in game creation. Why is it important to you to be able to use those skills you already have, those abilities you already have, to promote faith and Christianity and God?
Because it's interesting. When you ask people, what's the most important thing in your life? They're a parent. They'll say, my family or my kids. They all say that, right? And actually, it doesn't matter if they're Christians or not. Most parents will tell you that.
Yeah.
And then, you ask yourself just an objective question. If an alien from a distant planet descended on the Earth and just did a little scorecard, hey, how Americans say the most important thing in our life is their kid. How are they doing? Well, gosh, anxiety, suicide, depression rates are all-time highs. Oh, well, nobody, they're declining. Less than half of Americans go to church for the first time in our lifetime, which includes kids. Oh, hardly anyone believe in God. Oh, there's all this sexual content being pushed on kids. Oh, there's all this hyper-violent stuff. School shootings. Gosh, not great. That's not, I don't know if it's a D or an F, but it's not anything I'd want on my report card. And so my point is, and here's what else is interesting. When you talk to people who they talk about they have this baggage or trauma in their life, and a lot of that has happened through their childhood, and I'm not downplaying that. That's real stuff. But then you say to yourself, wow, but now we're the adults in the room. And what are we doing? And not just for our own kids, but for children at large. What are we doing? Name an organization. Let me ask you this. There's a lot of wonderful organizations, Christian organizations, that serve children overseas. Compassion International, Samaritan's Purse. Yeah. Wonderful places. World Vision, great. Can you please name one organization that exists to serve the needs of American children at scale? It's hard to list a government organization. It's hard to list, a nonprofit organization that's really looking out for the betterment of children. And so why are we doing this? Because I looked around, I didn't see anybody else doing it. And I know, we care about kids, and it breaks our heart to see this awful, see kids just getting, torn apart in their souls, and nobody doing anything about it, kind of turning a blind eye and all this concern with all this other nonsense, while the very souls of children are being destroyed. And what does Jesus say? He said, the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And what did he say? Let the little children come to me. Well, we're all going to have to stand in front of God one day and account. And this is what God's called us to. And the people that work with me, and it's a phenomenal team. I mean, our chief product officer, 25 years of experience making games. He actually ran the Farmville franchise for a while. He worked on some of the James Bond games. He started the skate franchise. Our head of engineering, literally, if you shopped at Amazon, it says, split this into multiple packages. This one will get here faster. He built that algorithm at Amazon. Just phenomenal artists. Oh, wow. Yeah, engineers. One of our story writers wrote books that have sold over 3 million copies, co-authored with Josh McDowell. I mean, it's a phenomenal team. I've been so blessed by these guys, and they're all doing their best to make something that isn't just faith-based, but that's excellent, that would stand on its own regardless. And they've done that. The team has really delivered it and delivered with real excellence and beauty, and that's that's what's different, and that's why we're so fired up to come to work every day and hopefully be a blessing, to families everywhere.
Amazing. So, if there's somebody out there listening right now, they're thinking it's kind of an interesting concept. I might be interested. What else is there? Anything else you would want them to know before they decide to take the plunge and sign up?
Gosh, well, yeah. So we're adding new content all the time at TruPlay. There's always there'll be a new comic, a new game, a new video, so just like any subscription service you sign up for, there's always, hey, there's a new show, and we're going to watch and see what's popular, and then we'll use that data to build more levels. So as an example, you might watch Netflix and you might watch The Crown. So The Crown, okay, we had season 1. Great. Now they're going to decide based on the data, we're going to do season 2. But for Netflix, it takes them a year or two to build a new season, and that's just because it's just the time it takes to do a quality television show. We can turn around new levels. Say the first 40 levels are really popular in a game we make. Well, we can turn new levels around in a matter of weeks. And so we can produce content. So we'll produce new content, we'll produce new games, but also levels for existing games, new comics, new videos. And I'm sure we'll be partnered with other organizations as well. We're in some other conversations because there are a handful, just like in Action Bible, which is a phenomenal product, where they've built a great product, but now, hey, let's get into the digital side. You've done a great job doing quality. Let's bring it to the digital and let's do a win-win. Just like Netflix empowers a lot of people who they want to make a great documentary, but the documentary wouldn't get into the movie theaters, not really. So it goes on Netflix. Great, everybody wins. That's kind of our approach too. So I would just want people to know there's new content all the time. We're working hard at TruPlay to continue to deliver and build great things for you and your family. And this really is a movement, right? We are parents just like you that are concerned about our children's well-being and their souls. And once, if you really think about it, Steve Jobs said this, he said, the most powerful person in society is a storyteller. And if you think about it, right, Jesus told a lot of parables, right? He told a lot of stories because that's what gets people's hearts to move. Well, who's telling the stories to our children today? TikTok? Is that who you want educating your kid? Or would you rather have God's truth written in your children's heart? And that's what we aspire to do at TruPlay.
Awesome. Well, if anybody wants to sign up right now, tell us, how can they get involved and how can they sign up, or how can they keep up with who you guys are?
Yeah, please go to TruPlayGames.com. You can buy a subscription today. We have a monthly and an annual plan. The annual plan gives you a price break, so hopefully that's a good thing for you and your family. There's also T-shirts and other merchandise. We got new merchandise coming out all the time. People have really taken to Maple and Lucas and Benjamin, and so we hope that that's something that people enjoy. And look, you can certainly follow us on the socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and please, again, would love join our movement and share this with your community, your church, your mom's groups, your friends, because we are so excited about what God's doing and the opportunity to really see a generation change. I mean, that's really what our heart is. There's, as I said, only 32% of children believe in God in America, and there's so much negativity coming against them in so many subtle ways and so many spiritual ways. But the tide will turn because God has a plan. And it's funny, when you think about when God moves, sometimes He sends fire from heaven. You always hope it doesn't happen to you. Sometimes He'll send angels, but usually what does He do? He sends people, right? That's really what He does usually. And so he's sent, this team at TruPlay and all of our customers already and our supporters and everyone else who's been involved. And it's just a really exciting time.
Well, I'm excited about what you guys are doing. It's been great having you on the podcast today.
Thank you, Ricky. It's been good to be with you.
It was great getting to know Brent and hearing what TruPlay is all about. Make sure you check out the links in the show notes down below and follow everything that they have going on. Well, that's all I have for you today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, just click all those buttons down there. That way you know that you'll be informed anytime we put out new content. You can also find all of our social links and links to our YouTube channel and our online store at ChristianNerdsUnite.com. If you enjoy the show and want to help even more, consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. We have changed all of our Patreon levels last year, and every level has some great benefits and makes a huge difference in the ministry we're able to do. Supporters will also get to hear exclusive stories of believers we're serving around the world through our ministry partners. To check it out or to partner with us, go to patreon.com/ChristianNerdsUnite or ChristianNerdsUnite.com and click support in the menu. And don't forget to check out ChristianNerdHQ.com for even more great podcasts. Before you go, I do want to leave you with this blessing from Philippians 1. And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and in depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God. We'll see you next week. Blessings.
Hey,